Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Hello IKYA, I'm Else from Norway. I have a question. In our society, we emphasize feelings a lot, and even in spirituality, they seem to be part of intuition. We are told that we should feel and always listen to our feelings. But when we look at ourselves and the world, it seems that emotions and feelings are running everything. We make our decision based on feelings and emotions. And still, it seems to contradict with what we are trying to achieve spiritually. I would love to hear you talk more about this. Thank you.
Feelings and emotions are a huge part of this culture. And yes, I completely agree that it's out of balance. Feelings can be wonderful, emotions can be wonderful, but it's also important from a spiritual perspective to understand how primitive they are. They're the least intelligent part of us, and I'll explain why. Feelings and emotions, when we go back in evolution to the very beginning, simple life forms, they start to experience sensations of hunger, of pain, of needing to sleep, wanting to have sex, fear, all of that. It's part of survival. So it's immediate needs. Fear is immediate. As a life form evolves, it becomes more complex. But still the emotions and the feelings are about the needs. So, feelings are often more immediate. And emotions are about the needs that have not been met over time. So, feelings and emotions are just like two different formats, but they communicate the same. Something is missing, something is wrong. It's basically, I need something. Feelings, I need it now. Emotions, I should have gotten it a long time ago. Why is nobody giving it to me? So, it's always about recognizing our needs. What we then have to understand is that needs are only connected to our body. This is what we call the horizontal consciousness and existence. It's when we go into an incarnation, when we relate to all of this. That's a horizontal reality. And feelings and needs are therefore only a part of your biology. As spiritual consciousness, as soul, you have no needs because you are completely aware that you are oneness. And you're also completely aware that you need to unpack that and peel away. But you work from the perspective of oneness. And therefore you have no needs. So, when we listen to our feelings and emotions, that has got to do with the survival of your human body if you're taking care of your own needs. Are you, eating, drinking, sleeping, all of that? It's to help you survive. Without that, people would die because they wouldn't listen to themselves and their body. So we have this system to help us survive. There is nothing wrong with that. And we need them, but they only relate to the body. The problem is when we try to spiritualize them and we try to mix our horizontal needs and feelings and saying, this is what I need to expand. That is not true, ever, because spirituality and the spiritual consciousness is vertical, which means we start with transcendence. It's about peeling away. It's growing out of limitations. And in our emotions, when we have had the experience of not taking care of our own needs and also creating the story that other people should provide, we get stuck in the horizontal mindset. Remember that the premise of survival is that you will die. The body will die. As soul, you exist forever. So survival is not a thing. But in the body, when you don't satisfy your feelings and emotions and thereby your needs, you can get the urgency of, you're going to die immediately. You just have to have this. You must have it. They're just chemicals in your brain. They're not the voice of God. And the challenge we have in our society today is that we have created an economy, we have created a civilization in which we manipulate the sense of need. Look at marketing. Products are not being marketed based on what they are. They're trying to trigger your need and trigger your emotions in such a way that you feel an urgency, I must have this. Because you think that when you have this, whatever it is, your life will be better. That's the horizontal, that's a genetic response to that type of information. So, we have been groomed for generations now to listen to our emotions and be a slave to that type of sensation, that whole complex of feelings and emotions. And thereby, also as people, we've been told that your feelings are extremely important because the more we listen to them, the more vulnerable we are to marketing. We'll buy more stuff the more we'll listen to our emotions because we will feel more and more dissatisfied with our life. Why? Because we are extremely hierarchical as beings. That's been part of survival. Climbing to the top, that will ensure your survival. And we see other people as competitors, and we measure ourselves up against other people. And we always need to climb. It's the only way to ensure survival. So, in a complex society, there are more and more things that can trigger us, more and more areas that will trigger the urgency of, I want this, I need this, and if I don't get this, I will die. So it's attention, it's things, it's places, it's how other people see you, it's career, it's relationships, like all of that. Everything becomes a commodity. And that's the thing with feelings. Everything becomes transactional. And we think, oh, it's just feeling. No, it means everything becomes transactional because it's about satisfying a need that you have identified subconsciously or consciously, and it's about filling that need. That's the purpose of your life strategies. So we live in a society now where we have an enormous emphasis on this because it's how we make the world economy just grow and grow and grow and grow. If people did not respond to this complex, they would figure out how to be happy. And, that would be good enough. The world economy would crash. So, as a civilization, we have willingly been part of this. All entertainment today is about triggering your emotions and feelings. Everything is about that, even politics. Politicians can't sell their solutions. Nobody's interested. They just want to be triggered emotionally. So they're forcing politicians to be more and more polarized, more and more extreme because they just want that feeling. So are we slaves of our emotions and feelings? Yes, we are. Is it healthy? No. It's the opposite of a spiritual consciousness. So, the solution is not listening to your emotions and feelings more. It's doing it less. And does that mean to block and repress your feelings and needs? No, it's actually the opposite. We need to peel away all these false needs, false feelings, all this false urgency, so we can recognize, what do I actually need? And stop there. So what do you actually need to be happy and to be balanced? And also, you are the only responsible for your own survival and well-being. Which means what we do as people, we create the story that other people are responsible and they owe me. People spend a big chunk of their life blaming their parents for everything they didn't get. Get over yourselves. It's your journey, you chose them. They're just people. People do strange things, weird things and wonderful things, and then we die. So expecting someone else to take care of all your needs and blaming them if they don't, that's a recipe for disaster. And a lot of therapy, of course. But it's looking at this complex that we in our society look at, this is holy, you know? Emotions and feelings are really the collective religion of our civilization. And it's very unhealthy. It's not spiritual. So, I often compare feelings and emotions to paint and color. And I say, you can't build a house with paint. And yet people try all the time. And then they suffer. You don't start with a decor. You start with building the structure. So, there are many levels in the human mind and consciousness that are not being emphasized in human culture yet. But understand that feelings and emotions are way down there. In spiritual work, we try to get higher. We try to cut through this and go past not only emotions and feelings, but also the level of thought. And I often describe the level above it as omniness. It's a state of clarity where you feel connected. And this is also the state you get into when you meditate and when you do spiritual practices. And you've done them for a while and you know what you're doing, you know, and you get into that state where you are completely awake, but you don't even know your own name anymore. And the sensation is often that you can't feel your body, and it feels your body is bigger because you're starting to relate to your energy. And the interesting thing is also brain scans of people in deep meditation show that much more of the brain is being activated at the same time. We've all heard that we only use 5 to 7% of the brain at any given moment. We use all of it, but not at the same time. In deep meditation, one can see that more of the brain is being activated, often more than 50%. And this creates a sense in the brain that information pathways connect. So you get a deeper sense of your whole landscape. So instead of having a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different stories and narratives and rooms in your house, is like the walls in your house will collapse and will become more one coherent space. And that also means that your ability to process and to think and to look at things and observe will be very different. And this is, you know, the expanded awareness in the human brain. But it doesn't stop there. The state of omniness is often the state where you actively can have experiences outside your brain, outside your body, outside your mind, because you connect to the greater landscape. You can also disconnect or go beyond the state of the individual. And many can have the experience of not being someone anymore. They connect more with isness, more with, you know, some state of oneness, where they, from that perspective, when we connect to our problems and issues in everyday life, we can look at them and we suddenly don't understand what the problem was, because it's all clear. And one of the interesting things are in that state, because it's beyond thought, we can have a very strong sense of clarity, and yet we have no idea what it is about. We can have a sense, I get it now, but you don't know what you're getting, because you haven't started the process of creating thoughts. And this is where we're trying to go in spiritual work. This is kind of the default launching pad, you know. We're trying to reach that state, and that's where it all starts. Because we have to go beyond all this inner noise, all this inner garbage, to reach a state of clarity that enables us to connect beyond our own story, beyond our own subjective perspective. And what we do then is when we reach this level, that's the starting point. And then we'll let that flow through the mind. Then we will create definitions, because that will be the first level. It's creating definitions and then context, connecting that new insight to what we already know. So it's like, okay, do we need to redraw the map here? In that case, how? That happens first. And then we will have the mind that creates thoughts. And then we can take those thoughts and say, what does that mean? And then we can look at our life strategies, and then often we can connect with plans. So we will have the structural part of our understanding. Then we connect the emotions and needs, because then it becomes personal. So, looking at it as a children's drawing book, where the mind will draw the lines and create those different kind of spaces. And it makes more sense for the colors to be within the boxes, within those lines. And when you put your emotions in those different parts, it will make sense, just like in a children's drawing book. The lines are there, just fill in with color. And that makes everything come alive. But it has to be in that order. Your emotions are not strategic. It's always about, I want this now. I should have had this now. Why is nobody giving it to me? It's important. It's not strategic. And when we make decisions from feelings and emotions, they're only from what you feel right now. And it never ends well. You can never achieve great things by listening to your feelings. They are the most short-sighted part of you, the most self-centered part of you. But when you have the strategies, when you have the overview and you understand what you're doing, when you have a clear thought, and then you add the emotions, then you create the huge story. And you create the storyline of your journey so you can connect with it and identify with it, and then it becomes an adventure. But in that order. And this is in spiritual work, is that we learn over time to start on top. We understand that we cannot use our lowest perspective to understand the full picture. It's impossible. We have to go up to where the full picture already is, and we start there and we connect with it, and then we'll learn what it takes to get there. We have to move it beyond the horizontal, our needs, our stories, our justifications and all that, beyond thought, beyond definitions, and into a state of clarity and omniness, where we have 360 degrees kind of view and experience, and then we just let that flush through us. And then it drizzles down. And when we then connect our feelings to that, we can have feelings that belong to a sense of direction. We can then feel where we are going. We can get this emotional urgency because we can understand first that, oh, this is actually better for my survival. But you first need to have the goal. Then you can start feeling it. Because if you don't have the goal first, you will just feel the lack of whatever you imagine would be in that goal. When you first set the goal and then feel, you can start looking forward to getting there. Two very different things. In our society, we're all being manipulated into feeling too much and having too much emotion and being in conflict with the world and ourselves because of it. Your feelings are not important. And to me, this is one of the important things we need to teach kids and also adults, to have a more strategic understanding of our feelings and emotions is they're not that important. Your strategies are learning how to interact with life, how to be responsible, how to get behind the wheel in your own life and create your own life. You do not create it based on feelings. You create based on being in alignment with yourself, your own level of consciousness, your essence, and you'll use life to let that unfold so that your life becomes a celebration, a testament to who you are, not to your sufferings and your needs. Often when people get into spiritual work, it takes a while for them to kind of detoxify their feelings and emotions because they're so used to working with them and they've been told that this is spiritual from other people who are also slaves of their emotions and feelings. It takes time, but over time you get it, simply because you will recognize that this gets in the way. And my feelings and emotions, it's not me. It's just my genetic identity. And to let my true self come through, I have to mute my horizontal identity, at least balance it somewhat. And then you will see that often even what you consider to be your needs will change. You can start to get having very different sensations. For instance, instead of being so focused on what you need, you can get an enormous sense of love and achievement by giving to others, by being in service. And that can also become a pathological need because you have redefined your sense of survival from the horizontal to the spiritual. So what you're drawn to emotionally will then be about what opens up for an expanded awareness in yourself and others, what promotes healing in yourself and others. And often that is very different from the emotional feelings complex that you have in your body. And it means also that the feelings you get are a lot stronger because they're not just coming from you. It will be how your body interprets your spiritual flow. And this is also where we get into what's known as spiritual ecstasy. That enormous sense of you get a cascade of chemicals in your brain, in your body, but it's the result of your flow, not from the satisfaction of eating an ice cream or whatever you think you need. And in that cascade of chemicals, you start feeling a wider spectrum of sensations. And you recognize that when the flow comes through, that all my needs are already met because my flow is complete. My flow is oneness. So you can act in your life from a state of already being fulfilled. And that's the only way you can truly move into spiritual service. Because as long as you are just trying to satisfy your own emotional complex, you cannot be in service. It's all about you. And you can't fake it. You can't force it. You have to get to that sense of understanding your flow and letting your body interpret it. And you get to that conclusion, yeah, all my needs are already met. There's nothing I need. And many of you will have that experience in meditation or spiritual practices that you get to like, yes, it's complete fulfillment. I get it now. And let that take over. It heals your emotion. It heals the whole complex. So instead of like chasing whatever you feel you haven't yet had, which is such a big part of our past, it's everything that we haven't gotten and how that hurt us somehow. When we're in the flow, that will be instantly healed. And we can start living from a state of expressing who we are, expressing the love, expressing the joy. And that becomes contagious. We just want to share it because we will overflow. We will be in a state of abundance, which is the opposite of the feelings and emotions and needs that we normally experience. So that sense of overflow and abundance take over. And then you can use your feelings and emotions to nurture and to bring love and to bring growth. And that's really what life is about.